Hey, what's up guys? This is JT. Welcome to the backyard and welcome once again to Bodyweight Strength. In this video, what I'm going to do is share a technique that's going to help you get way better at pull-ups. It doesn't have to be applied to only pull-ups. You can use it to help you get better at any progression in the skill progression trees that I laid out, or any movement period for that matter, that you happen to be struggling with or you feel that you are stuck at. Now keep in mind that this technique is not going to replace your programming. So however you have your daily workouts and your programming set up, you're still going to have your hypertrophy, your strength training, you're still going to have that. But this is going to be something that you're going to add to that to help you get past sticking points and to help you get better at repping out whatever movement you're trying to do. When I first came across this style of technique was back in 1997 when I went to Marine Corps Bootcamp right out of high school. When I got to boot camp, I could only do 3 or 4 pull-ups. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was 3 or 4 pull-ups when I got there. When I left, I could do 20 plus. And boot camp is 3 months long. And at the time when I was there, I didn't much think about the way that our drill instructors in platoon 1026 did things. And I don't know if it's the way that other platoons do things because I only went through boot camp once. But in our platoon, what they did is every day when we went down to PT, we did pull-ups. And when we did pull-ups, we would have, there's a few pull-up bars and you would have a line. I think we had like 60 kids in our platoon, or 60 men. Sorry, we weren't kids, I guess technically. I was a kid back then. But anyways, there was like 60 guys in our platoon. And so you would have a few lines. And then what would happen is each recruit would hop up and do a set of pull-ups. But our drill instructors were very specific. They did not want us doing them to failure. They wanted us stopping short of failure, staying fresh, getting to the back of the line, and then going through it again and again and again. So we would do quite a few sets 20 years ago, so I don't remember the number. You know, again, I wasn't paying attention at the time because I wasn't really into programming. I was just trying to get through boot camp. But long story short, you would see guys putting on, 2 reps, 3 reps, sometimes in a 1 or 2 week period. And a lot of guys graduated after 3 months pulling 20 plus pull-ups. Now, I graduated boot camp, got through the Marine Corps. Way later in life, about 10 years later, I read a book by a guy named Pavel Tatselin. You can go check him out, Google him. He's all over YouTube. He's a pretty famous strength coach from Russia. And he did some work with the military. So looking back, after I read, the book I read was The Naked Warrior. That was the first book by Pavel that I read. So after I read The Naked Warrior, I thought back to boot camp, and he talks about what he calls greasing the groove, and it's very similar to what my drill instructors in boot camp had us doing on the pull-up bar. And because Pavel did some training in the military, I don't know exactly when he came to the States and how all that worked, but it's possible that my drill instructors were fans of his, or somebody at some point had gotten some of his techniques into our platoon. That could totally be where it came from, but I have no way to know. The moral of the story, or the point of the video, is that greasing the groove, as Pavel calls it, is a very effective way to help you get better at a specific movement. And the reason for that is strength is not directly correlated to muscle size. So you could be bigger than another person. They could be smaller than you when it comes to musculature and hypertrophy, but the smaller guy could be stronger than a larger guy, right? And that's because a big part of strength is neurological. There is a neuromuscular adaptation that happens, just like if you practice a sport, any particular movement in any sport. If you've not done it much, you're going to be clumsier at it, you're not going to be proficient at it, and the more you practice it, the more proficient and the better at that movement or that thing you're going to become. Most people don't look at doing pull-ups or look at strength training as a sport, but practicing a specific movement repeatedly is going to help you build neuromuscular adaptations to do that specific movement better, more efficiently, and easier. So the way that you would take this specific technique and apply it to your current setup, let's use pull-ups as the example. If you want to get better at pull-ups, you are still going to do pull-ups as part of your current strength programming. Okay, so if you're training 2 or 3 days a week, your pull-ups, you're going to leave that alone. But what you're going to do is you're going to add in greasing the groove on top of that training. And the way that you're going to apply this is you're going to perform sub-maximal sets, and they're going to be very sub-maximal. You're going to perform sets at about 50% of what you are capable of performing. So what you want to do is do a max set. So do a set where you essentially are going to momentary muscular failure, like do a max set of pull-ups and see where you are. If you are stuck at 6, then what you're going to do is you're going to grease the groove with 3 pull-ups. So you're going to do sets of 3 pull-ups, and the way you want to do this is you want to do as many sets as you can do while staying fresh, throughout the time period that you're doing these sets. And you're going to have to choose what schedule of doing this is realistic or works best for you. And what I mean by that is you could wake up in the morning, have coffee, do a set of pull-ups, get ready for work, head out the door, come home, do a set of pull-ups, do a set before bed, and that would be 3 sets of pull-ups in addition to your normal strength training. Now, the other thing that you could do a set of pull-ups every hour on the hour that you're home. You could do a set of pull-ups every half hour on the half hour that you're home. There's not a specific right or wrong way to do this. The guidelines or the things that you want to keep in mind is the more you practice the skill, the better at the skill you're going to get. As Pavel says it, strength is a skill. You need to practice it frequently or practice it often. And so with this particular technique, with greasing the groove, however you plan to set it up, what you're trying to do is practice your pull-ups as frequently as you can while staying fresh. You're not taking any of these sets to failure or even close to failure. You're taking these sets to about 50 or 60% of your normal maximum amount of pull-ups that you could perform. And then every week or 2 weeks, what you're going to do is add one more pull-up to the amount that you're doing. You're still not going to test your max pull-ups. You're going to go maybe at the end of the first week and say, okay, I was doing 3 pull-ups. Now I'm going to do 4 in my sub-maximal sets. After 2 weeks, maybe you add one more. Okay, now I'm doing 5 in my sub-maximal sets. I suggest you do it this way and you only go to a maximum effort test every 2 weeks or so, and that's where you're going to go all out to complete failure. You're going to wear yourself out, and that's how you're going to test what you added to the maximum amount of work that you can perform on a specific movement, in this case pull-ups. Now, something to keep in mind with regards to this type of training, to this methodology of greasing the groove, every person, every athlete has a different recovery ability. Every athlete has a different volume or workload that they can handle. I once trained with my buddy Brent. He went to the gym with me a few times, and he actually was really strong for his size, but he's the kind of guy where if he trained 2 days in a row, he actually felt like crap. He didn't recover well. So an every other day training split was ideal for him, where I would train more frequently and I felt great and I felt fresh. And because there's variability amongst people, there's not a one right way or a one wrong way to do this. So when you start implementing the greasing the groove technique, whether it's to assisted pistol squats because you want to get better at pistols or you can't do full pistols yet, maybe you need to build that strength and stability through that full range of motion. If you practice those frequently at that sub-maximal effort, you're going to get better quickly. And it's the same for pull-ups. When you add this grease the groove method into your training, keep in mind that if you start to feel like you aren't recovering well, then what you may want to do is either decrease the number of grease the groove sets you're doing throughout the day, or what you might want to do is decrease your overall training volume a little bit to accommodate the grease the groove. It depends on your goals. If you need help with that, or you're curious how to set this up, you can basically just ask me below and I'll try to answer as quickly as I can. But just like I said, keep in mind that you're going to have to pay attention to your body. You're going to have to pay attention to how you feel, and you're going to have to adjust your grease the groove volume, or you're going to have to adjust your weekly training volume to put this all together. Hopefully that makes sense. Like I mentioned, I'll help you out where I can. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Thank you for sticking with this video, and thank you once again for supporting Bodyweight Strength.